and welcome to King of the Planet 12, hosted by eSports.com. Today we have a confrontation between the current king and undefeated champion Eladea, and he's being confronted by top 10 leaguer Yags. I am Quitch, and I'm joined today by WPMarshall.
Hello there, folks, and yes, it's King of the Planet 12. Two really strong players, and I'm pretty sure most of the community know them. Those who don't, they've been regulars in the top placements of most tournaments, and it's going to be interesting to see these two titans go on head-to-head against each other in this best of 5.
Yes, thus far Eladea has taken down the seemingly invincible Matisse. He defeated Forest without dropping a match. He defeated Battle Bear without dropping a match. So can he continue his successful run against Yags, a man who people believe is the one true hope of taking down Eladea? We're also joined today by Klops and a bit later Matisse, who are going to be providing us some analysis on the games as they run. But first of all, let's bring the players in here and talk to them about their amazing strategies and how they are going to crush one another on the field of battle.
Yes.
So, hello Eladea, hello Yags.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
So, Eladea, you have an undefeated run so far. How are you feeling about your chances?
My chances of beating Yags?
Yes.
Well, we both didn't really prepare much, so I think it's going to be a coin toss.
Well, that's good to hear. That's the spirit. Yags, how are you feeling about your chances of taking down Eladea then?
Well, I voted for him in the poll, so we'll see. I also haven't prepared much, but I mean, I don't know. I'll just rely on my RTS skills. Hopefully it'll work out.
We are seeing a bit of a one-sided poll here, 21-7 in favour of Eladea as the audience votes. I think he's going to carry the first match. Do you have anything special? The challenger, as people might know, gets to choose the first map, and it can be almost anything they want. Have you prepared anything special for us today, Yags? Have you identified Eladea's weaknesses and put maps together to take advantage of them?
I kind of know his style, and because I don't want to give it away, but yeah, I have some maps lined up.
So you have prepared on that front,
style. Yeah, I didn't actually make the maps, but they've been in previous tournaments, and I really like them. So we'll see them again. I think they're good maps.
Well, Eladea, I don't think you've been in a position thus far after Matisse's game to actually have to pick a map. If you lose a game today, can we expect to see you pick anything other than a ladder map?
Yeah, I made a few maps. It should be kind of interesting. Just wanted to keep the tournament kind of fun. I got kind of sick of just ladder maps all day long.
Okay. Well, we're going to move your chats back to your room. We're going to have a quick word with our analyst before we get into the first game. So thank you very much. And let's bring Klops in just to discuss this. Hello, Klops.
Hey, how's it going? Sorry. Yeah.
Klops, our ever-professional analyst who is completely prepared for this event.
Yeah, I have my fact sheets down and all ready to go.
We have torn him away from his sophisticated wine tasting events for this event today. So, Klops, this is better than wine tasting, right?
Yeah, it's much better. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, we have two players with very similar tournament win rates. I think Eladea is at 74%, Yags at 73%, both being very successful. Two of the most successful players in PA, in fact. But who do you favour for this one?
I think Eladea is going to win pretty handy.
You reckon it's going to be a bit of a stomp?
Yeah, I would say so. It depends. Like, if Yags can pick up the build for the first 2 games, he could come back in the later games. But I say Eladea has a nice build now.
Well, we've seen Eladea talking in the forums about he believes it's a very static build for this particular balance. I mean, do you agree with that? What have you found?
Yeah, I think it can be a little slow at the beginning, but after that it's back to normal, I suppose.
And have you, as a man who loves his bombers, have you found the changes to those? The longer chain that starts later.
Yeah, I actually enjoy it. It's actually easier. If you micro a little bit, you become more effective.
Have you found now that you can micro the bombers even more effectively, you spend absolutely no time managing your economy?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, well, I see that we've got next Festa a map from way back when, our December tournament, December Deadlock, and Yags has chosen the round 2 map as his first one. I don't know if you remember that, Klops.
No, I don't think I was there for that tournament.
I think round 2 may have been the one with the bridges, which would favour potentially some amphibious bot play. But what we'll do now...
Oh, actually, I do remember that. Yeah, I think Matiz beat me there. Yeah. No, that was round 4. I can't remember.
Well, in that case then, I think we're going to get this game underway. And
Okay.
So thank you very much for your time, Klops.
No problem.
So, Marshall, what do you agree with them? Do you think it's going to be a bit of a one-sided stomp for Aladea?
I don't know. I am going to put a disclaimer up, and that is that because of my dissertation essay stuff, I've been relatively out of PA, so my experience at the moment isn't great, and I haven't seen the players faring in the latest build. So I don't know. Going on past performance, I think it could go either way. I think, especially with the new build, it's all about that making it work with the right map and not being a little bit too greedy early game. I think that's where a lot of us tend to get hung up, is when they try and push a little bit too hard too early and then find that they're easily defended against and then they have nothing to follow that up with.
Well, we see that the map that Jaeger has picked is reasonably water heavy. I think we're definitely going to see some docks play on this map. It's one of the larger maps, and I think we're going to see probably quite a lot of air, quite a lot of docks. There's going to be a lot of raiding going on. Going to be playing the economy game here, I think.
Yeah, I would agree, although don't forget there's all the smaller clumps of lots of mechs all over the place, so those are going to be prime points to contest, like this one right here. I do recall that one being a main point of contention, and effectively you've kind of got 3 lanes, I suppose, if you will. You've got the main wide one around there, you've got the sort of semi-weird one down the back, which leads to your alternate mechs, and then another weird one which is smaller. But the players spawning in now.
Yeah, so we see that Aladea spawning at the North Pole here, Yates coming in at the South. Both of them opting for a bot start, so, nothing too surprising, I think. With all this water, I don't expect to see many tanks early on. I think it's going to be a lot of air, a lot of bots. Both of them are just going to be trying to take these expansion points as quickly as possible and use the docks to shut down their opponent's expansion attempts. Yeah,
no doubt. We'll probably see a lot of air, as you said earlier. Probably much more favored in terms of the Hummingbirds, however, because of the bombings taking a while to get there, and with radar and everything, they'll be easily countered. And especially with the early game, with everyone rushing to expand, bombers might be okay against the expanding Faber, but if players have anything of their past reputations to go by, they'll be defending those fabricators pretty heavily.
I think we're seeing a pretty standard opening here. We're seeing both players start with docks, into mechs, energy, then into an air factory thereafter. Or in actual fact, Aladea opting to go for the air factory third to Jaeger's second. Slightly unusual choice there, but Jaeger's also only going for his second energy after the second factory. Again, slight deviation from what would be considered the normal opening. And Jaeger's also taking us with a rather heavy Faber start on the metal, surprisingly, not building energy with his third Faber.
Yeah, that is rather surprising, but he is getting it up with his commander, I suppose. But then again, maybe that's all the fabricators he's ever going to bother with, certainly for the time being. And with all of his metal, he'll then be able to expand a lot faster once commander has got that power up. It does appear as though he's going to be building another air factory before he continues with his power, which to me is surprising.
We're seeing Aladea moving out with a fairly substantial force straight across the map. Both players, of course, know where the other one spawned. There was only one spawn for each of them. So Aladea already making some aggressive moves. And we see Jaeger making a mistake early on with a couple of idle Fabbers there sitting amongst his docks, not doing anything. It doesn't seem to have queued up any more mechs for them. And that's in danger of putting him behind in this early economic game.
Was he leaving them idle deliberately, though? Because I did notice, and you did say with lots of Fabbers like that, it's going to cost him a lot on his energy. Maybe he was just giving it a chance to replenish while he was building up his extra factories, and the P-gens as well, which his commander's now doing. But they are moving off now, though, to the metal.
Well, I think I'd be surprised. I would expect him. He was saying he was a little rusty. His builds weren't quite what they used to be, and I think that's an example of that. Really, he should have his timings down such that he's already got enough energy to power the fabrics. Because if you can't use the fabric, of course, why build the fabric? It's a waste of metal. You want more docks instead. So perhaps just seeing a little of the rough play that he said might be an issue, but perhaps he can pick up his game as we go on.
Yes, indeed. Now, looking over here, we've got a small group of docks coming in, but they could do a lot of damage here as there are 2 fabricators there, and not a good enough defense, and the fabbers go down, unfortunately, so no more mechs over there, and if these 3 can survive there with a little bit of wiggling, they will survive, although I think one dock's probably going to have a hard time taking down that mechs in any reasonable time, but 2 fabber win there, especially given the delay that they had. That was pretty hefty early game.
Yeah, we see Eladair already taking a bit of a lead there on the land, bit of a lead in the air. A nice early win. He's already ahead in factories, he's ahead in fabbers, he's running a better economy. He's taking a strong start in this game, but with the size of the map, perhaps early win not going to be significant. And indeed, we see Yates pick up a fabber of his own right there. But Eladair smartly has got to tow it up to try and hold that territory. Alas, that little ice mountain thing just getting in the way. I'm not going to call it an iceberg. I got shouted at last time.
Well, whatever it is, it's good news for Jaeger, although his units there left idle, they could be doing other things. Now, it does occur to me that Eladair at this point in the game is realising he's got Jaeger sort of ruffled at this point and is going with the air fabbers. And I have seen him do this a little bit. I've dropped in on a couple of his streams and I do notice that he does use air fabbers a bit more, which to me is indicative of confidence and also a strong air game, which he does have. If we look around, he's got at least 10 fighters around the place, but 3 air fabricators. That's a lot of investment into air fabricators.
Well, Eladair's been theorising quite heavily on the forums recently, and I think his belief is that you can take metal faster than your opponent can deny it to, so he's become quite favourable towards air fabbers, that he can rush out, he can grab mechs, and if he loses any, it doesn't matter because he's grabbing more metal than he's losing with the air fabber. And we see already both players making aggressive plays in air, although Yates, if he just pushes forward a little here, could score himself a nice win. Surprisingly, Eladair having all 3 air fabbers in a single location, that's a huge vulnerability right there. But he's making some bold and risky plays and just hoping it pays off for him.
Yeah, it's a vulnerability, but it does mean he has exceeding build power right there with those 3. But he does need to get up some anti-air assistance over there. It does surprise me that he's left them not only together, but without any support. I think that's the bigger issue here.
See, Eladair once again, he's taking economy lead, but he's not fully utilising it. He is floating a little, and really the amount that he's floating is actually putting Yates just slightly ahead. Both players still got the same level of production, and Yates slightly more forces if he is playing a little defensively with them at the moment. Eladair looking far more confident, striking across the maps, and indeed using a method we haven't seen in a while, whereby he's planting down laser turrets to deny map control to his opponent. Something we used to see back in the late days of Gamma, but certainly hasn't been meta for a while.
Yeah, laser turrets, certainly on the smaller maps in this build, have become exceedingly powerful because I said earlier, you can't overstretch yourself in early game pushes, and defensive turrets are a great way to wall off terrain because you just can't get the unit count up on smaller maps early game, so it gives you a good chance to lock down areas, especially on Forge. We did see the air fabricators get taken down there by Jaeger, so Eladair lost all 4 there. He did manage to get up the point defense though, which is good news. Now doing a good bit of scouting with all of those fighters. Unfortunately, Jaeger doesn't quite have the numbers just yet. They're on the other side of the map, and they come now. Eladair is wanting to retreat there, but he did get a little bit of scouting, and he's going to see those. Oh my goodness. And he gets chomped up.
Yeah, so he's getting a nice win in the air, and despite Yates' protestations to his rustiness, I think he seems to be doing pretty well for himself. He's holding pretty even, perhaps getting a little more raided by Eladair than he's managing to raid Eladair, but both holding even in production, in army size. And Yates is starting to take back some of the map control that he gave to Eladair, although I think these laser turrets are going to make it trickier for him to take as much of this map back as he'd like.
Yeah, Eladair does need to start putting up a bit more of production and laying down a little bit more of an issue for Jaeger, because Jaeger is gradually catching up, as you say, but I'm not sure he's investing quite so heavily in the factories as he could be. Eladair, meanwhile, there's a lot of air factories he's building. He wants that air game. I think he feels he's confident with the docks at the moment, but I think once he starts to scout vehicle factories, he might rethink that. But the air...
Now, Eladair is a big believer in the idea that large maps are won through air, and I think we're seeing that with his mass hummingbird production. We won't see him do. We're not going to see him do a lot of bombing until he's claimed the skies off Yates. But Yates already got a number of hummingbirds out there, so he's going to make it tricky for Eladair, especially if he gets unfavourable confrontations like he just had there, losing all of his bombers and a rally point that I think needs to be updated based on where those hummingbirds just went.
Yeah, that didn't look great, and he does seem to be throwing them in far too early, although Yeag's now going to fly those hummingbirds very close to the commander, not quite within range of the anti-air, but quite riskily, but did get a massively good scout on the base, seeing all of the air production, realising that perhaps it is time to push the ground offensive, because it does appear as though he does have the advantage there, especially now with tanks and vehicles starting to move up the lanes.
Well, I think both players are floating a surprising amount, and I'm not sure if that's simply because of the number of feathers they're losing, or because they haven't had as much practice with this build as they'd have liked. Both players, of course, being masters of the previous balance, which changed earlier this month to introduce a slightly slower start, and as we're seeing, actually, some rather aggressive turret play around the mexes. Anyone who's familiar with Cola Colin, like one of the grandfathers of PA, around from ever since when, he will be very happy to see the kind of play that's going on here. A lot of map control, a lot of turrets, a lot of contesting the metal points across the map. And right now, it's balanced on a knife's edge.
Yes, it's after the early game aggression from Eladair. He hasn't really been able to follow it up. Once all his fabricators were taken out, he just hasn't had that expanding, booming economy that he did do. And Yeags has caught up and surpassed in the metal now, which is really surprising. Yeah, he's also doing a good job just having a few docks here, there, everywhere, just sort of scouting the odd bit of mess and using air to a really good effect, just making sure that it's never stationary and always moving around. Plus, he also has some air fabricators of his own now going for so there. They have fallen idle there, but that's a lot of build power that he has there. And given he has air control at the moment, although it looks as though to be evening off to the 50-50, does feel safe enough to be able to produce those.
Yeah, he's currently launching a raid into Eladair's base, unfortunately idling the docks after an initial win, leaving them rather vulnerable. But still, Eladair's leaving some gaps for Yeags to sneak through with this. He's locking down the areas that he owns with turrets, but with docks on the map, there are all sorts of routes you can take. The water is effectively just land to them. Neither side attacking each other there, and Yeags is starting to be all over the place now, and Eladair is starting to look a little reactive rather than the early control he had in this game.
Yeah, it does certainly seem the case. I mean, he had early control, but then once he'd walled them off, I think he sort of just left them be, assuming that they're going to be absolutely fine. And now that we're transitioning into the sort of mid-game here, possibly even beginning to go late game as we went to 12 minutes, I don't think a single turret at all of his expansion is really going to be enough, and I think he's fallen into the false sense of security that those turrets may provide.
Eladair's found a bit of a back route here into this metal that Yeags has left rather vulnerable again. Even though he passed in with a group of docks, unfortunately didn't notice that Eladair was coming in, otherwise he could have defended on the coast, where of course the defending docks can fire at the docks in the water, and the docks in the water can't fire back, but missed opportunity. But Eladair now making a really aggressive attempt to take the sky. His superior air production is starting to pay off, and I think we're about to see Yeags lose his air force. He withdraws
Down go the bombers.
Withdraws from the confrontation, loses the bombers, but hasn't lost control of the skies yet.
Though he is about to momentarily, and there it goes, his air force is denied. But he does have a significant tank and docks force. I don't know where the tanks are going down to that peninsula there, because they aren't amphibious, but docks are.
I get a bit of a point of oopsie with the order there. They're sending both forces at the same time. Perhaps he's using them just to defend those mechs while he sends over some fabrics to take it back. But we saw Eladair in the air confrontation using some of that famous PAG micro, where he rotated the air fighters so that as they got damaged, they rotated around to the back and fresh ones were brought up to the front to tank more damage, which allows you to have a very favourable air confrontation.
Yeah, that was pretty good, and it's really shows the top class of player when you can micro to that level and keep that in mind all the time, whereas other people would just click and hope, as it were.
Well, yeah, he's going to have to do something to start taking back the air. I think he's already starting to pump out some spinners into his forces now, which he's going to have to do, and he's unfortunately not keeping his fighters in a safe place. He's not going to mass up more fighters if he doesn't keep them somewhere safe. He's leaving them on the edge of his base, and there's just popping in and out, picking them off again. He's really going to have to start rallying them around some ground AA so that they can get more favourable trades and discourage Eladair from just coming and wiping them out. But we see now with the eco that Eladair is starting to take a significant lead there. As Eladair once again takes map control and really has Jaeger on the back foot now that he's lost control of the air.
Yeah, no, they did lose control. Yeah, you did mention the spinners coming out, and given that the spinners are going to be in the transition there, that tells me that Jaeger is going to make a bigger ground push, sort of conceding the air, as it were. But the problem with having to build spinners is that it reduces the number of tanks that you have, and as seen in this confrontation here now, Eladair is also building vehicles and is going to be able to make a push.
Indeed, they're starting to make ground on almost every front now. Yeah, he's got his everything turrets up, but the bots and tanks are moving in such mass that I think he's just going to overwhelm anything he runs across. And Jaeger's really now has very little outside of his own base perimeter. Most of his troops are now sitting on the defensive. Indeed, if we look across at the army tab, we see that Eladair starting to pull ahead there. He's got better production, he's got a slightly larger army. And Jaeger's going to have to find something to get him an edge here, because it does look like he's on the back foot on every front.
Yes, it certainly does seem that way. A couple of areas that have been relatively untouched is this one here. Those mechs could be snapped up, as could some of the ones in the water. But I think the main issue right now is Eladair's air force, and with those bombers starting to mix in, they're going to be able to one-pass any mechs that they come across.
Yes, I think with the numbers that he's got there, he has enough for one pass. We see Jaeger once again moving in with his fighter force, picking up some bombers there. It's on the run. I don't think he's going to... He's gonna make his air force smaller, but he doesn't have the numbers, I think, to take it. Oh no, he's got reinforcements coming in, so he could punish Eladair for being so bold there.
And the bombers getting a little bit too close for comfort, and yes, they are all going to go down. Oh, that was unfortunate, and they were just sitting ducks there. And now air fabricators as well. As soon as the scout gets off there, the air will probably start to move just to the west and take down those air fabbers, but I don't think they have the scout just yet, so they don't have reason to go there.
Jaeger's is taking back the air, but it's that time where Eladair had air dominance has cost him an incredibly large amount of eco, as we can see here. Although he's floating quite a lot of it right now, he's taken so much of the map now that Jaeger's less than half the eco of Eladair. Really could be in trouble.
Yeah, although the arrows here and there getting taken off, but again, fab counts don't really mean too much at this point, because Eladair just has that floating metal, as you say, and he just needs to start using it. I think he could use his commander for a few more vehicle factories, considering he's floating energy. He doesn't really need to be building more P-gens.
Both players trying to make some moves on their opponent's eco. Jaeger's obviously having a slightly more defensible position just because of the fact he's got less territory, but this is going to be a case of where Jaeger has really got to try and narrow down the lead here. He's got to try and take back the eco, but unfortunately he's not managing to pull it off. It does look like Eladair is managing to extend that lead and indeed win the economic war further.
This is a very well defended position over here for the moment, with the Air Force and his fabbers there. Putting up a few turrets around the place, which is really well defended. Although, I mean, with almost 100 more max income, Eladair can really start to wait. I don't know about the meta, so I don't know at what point T2 start coming into play in there. So, what do you think about that?
I don't think we're going to see Tier 2 on a map of this size. I think both players are going to be raiding so aggressive with docks. They're going to it's a very aggressive docks play, very aggressive air play. I don't think there's going to be an opportunity for Tier 2 to come into it. If we see a player putting up a Tier 2 factory, it's an indication that the game is already over. I wouldn't expect to see any, not with these number of docks running around the place.
Large grouping of air now from Jaeger, although with the production that Eladair has, he has probably about equal numbers there in that over his commander.
I think once again Eladair making a push for that air. We see, but I think this is how we're going to see it play. You take the air, you wipe out your opponent's air force, then they slowly gather up their forces in an area you can't attack with your air, and then try and snowball the air back from you again. And I think we'll see a few more exchanges of air dominance. But it's just a case of what you do with the time that you've won. And Eladir solidifying his positions nicely, I think.
Yeah, and he's started to move out with vehicles as well, and a few vehicle fabbers mixed in there. Another air confrontation. I think Eladir has the advantage there, just as he moves in more air units just to the side. He doesn't want to overextend himself, so he's going to leave them back. There he goes. He hasn't moved them further in. Gives him a chance to consolidate his numbers with another squadron, as it were. But I really like the way that Eladir is sending in fabricators with his aggressive forces.
Well, he's got to defend his fabbers as he moves in to take these mechs. We're seeing now that he's making a large docks push, but Eladir's got the tanks there to take that force out, and I think to roll on further, in fact, if he micros this right.
Yeah, and if those docks don't get past, even if the tank force does go down, that vehicle fabricator's still going to be there. They're getting a little bit close. Can they take it down? No, they don't, and the fabricator does go down.
Oh dear, one docks just sneaking through the lines to secure that, and a bit of a mistake by Eladir. Should have retreated those tanks earlier, should have retreated away from the fabbers to stay between, away from the docks to stay between them and the fabber. Left himself unnecessarily exposed, and he's going to lose a bit of time as he has to bring another fabber to the lines. And indeed, we're seeing now Eladir starting to set up a pelter over here. It's clearly decided this defensive line is a bit too much of a hassle. Not sure I agree with that. I think you could just go around those turrets, to be quite honest. I'm not really sure that pelter is a great investment in that position.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree there. So, I mean, I don't know, we've got a lot of docks from Jaeger. However, they're in single file, although I am getting a little bit of lag at the moment. But when they're in single file like that, they're quite easy to be picked off, and especially as they start approaching the areas that they're attacking, they're not going to be doing as much damage, and they'll be easier to defend against as a result.
Well, it's now got a fairly substantial factory lead. He's got 100 additional army units out there right now. I think he's just slowly grinding Jaeger down. Both players spent a lot of the early game building up very defensive positions, a lot of static defense in place. But I think Eladir is slowly starting to grind Jaeger down and take this game.
Yeah, it is. It does seem gradual now that he has most of the Northern Hemisphere's mechs. Although, having said that, Jaeger does have this little enclave here, if I'm not lagging too much, to actually get that ping out. But at the same time, his attacks aren't... You know, that group of vehicles and docks there isn't particularly substantial, although given the fact that the commander's on the other side of the base, it does manage to do damage. I think Jaeger could probably be moving his commander to help defense at this point in the game.
Yeah, I think we'll see Eladir making a first of what I think will be a few attacks into this base. Just slowly grinding it all down. He's taking out factories. He's not going to win with this force. He's not going to win with the next force, most likely. But he's eventually going to win. Jaeger simply doesn't have the economy and production necessary to stop Eladir at this point.
Yeah, no, he really doesn't.
You see Jaeger's beat off that attack there, but already another set of tanks coming in from Eladir. As Jaeger's docks run off. He's been surprisingly poor with his rally points with the docks as well. As you noted earlier, some single file docks running past Eladir, and there's been a few instances of that with his fighters earlier, with his docks now, just giving Eladir unnecessary easy kills that have really stopped Jaeger from building up that army he needed to push Eladir back. It's Eladir now just closing it down. He's bringing out a navy now just to start attacking these shore defences that are stopping his docks coming onto land. Attack forces attacking around the back, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a potential GG from Jaeger in the not too distant future, as he realises that, to be quite honest, he has no means to come back. There's no snipe. He's got nothing to pull off a surprise victory. Eladir's commander's looking very safe, very snug. And I think we're seeing it. Jaeger here recognise that this may be an unwinnable situation for him.
Yeah, there's the GG, and the commander will explode. There he goes. Yep. Well played from Eladir. I think, despite the trades in air, I think the ability to keep up the air production, keep the eco expanding, and then transition to ground production in equal measure to the air production, I think, was what won him that game, along with continued harassment. and replenishment of his own resources.
Absolutely. And as we see here in the stats, actually, Eladir playing slightly less efficient than normal, only a 93.3% efficiency, which, while I would love to have that kind of reliability in my games, for Eladir might consider that a little low. But I mean, I think that game was fairly tight for most of it. It's just around about the midpoint, Eladir just slowly starting to take it off Yates. I think he just raided better. It's really hard to see a single turning point in this game that won it for Eladir. I think perhaps the switch to vehicles was a mistake by Yates that meant he lost some much needed manoeuvrability on the battlefield.
Yeah, I think it was just a gradual grind down and losing fabricators that weren't then replenished or defended. And I think I don't know. I feel as though the transition to ground that Yates tried to do halfway through wasn't in as great enough effort, if you see what I mean. He sort of started phasing in vehicles, but wasn't enough to surprise Eladir. I think if he'd have used that phase to his advantage and got Eladir on the back foot reacting to that, but unfortunately Eladir was able to transition to vehicles in much greater proportions than Yates at that point.
Yeah, I think as well the air advantage that Eladir had allowed him just to control more of the map better than Yates ever could. But let's bring the players in here and ask them about that. So we'll bring in Eladir first and see what he thought got him that win. So, hello Eladir.
Hey, how are you?
Congratulations on taking the first game. You've already stepped foot on the path to another clean sheet win in King of the Planet. That looked like quite a tight game for most of it, and then suddenly you were around about 14-15 minute mark. You just slowly started taking advantage and ground Yates down. What do you think was the turning point there?
The turning point was when I turned my factories on, quite honestly. Because I had them... there's like this... Yeah, I think you know what the power toggle bug is, but I had them turned off for a while and I was floating a lot of metal.
Well, even saying that though, I mean, we look at the factory count, again, to the halfway point, you're both equal in terms of factories. You didn't have any more production than Yates did up till then. So do you think, I mean, in terms of when you actually did get them on, even when you did switch them back on again, you would still have only been producing about the same amount that Yates was, but clearly managed to use it better than he did.
Well, I also think, was he floating metal or was he
I think you both
stalling?
You both floated about as badly as each other. I haven't seen his stats, but I would guesstimate your efficiency was probably about the same. Early on, you were floating a little harder than he was actually.
Because it felt like I was able to hold all of my metal, because I knew he was going to try and dox rush, or at least try and attack all of my metal with dox, so I was just building turrets everywhere, and that seemed to help a lot. But he didn't build turrets on his metal, and I think in the early game that probably cost him.
It was surprising amount of static defense actually seen on this map. It was like going back to the, probably I think this might be before your time as well actually, but back to the days of late Gamma when there was a turret by every mech's point. I haven't seen play this much static defense around for a while. Do you think that's going to become a standard part of the new balance, or is that just because of the size of the map?
It could be, but definitely I think it's specific to this map, because it's just so spread out, and because of the lakes and the mobility advantage that the docks has, you need to be able to defend from the docks, and not so much the tanks. So, you're going into game 2 then. Are you confident for that game? Do you think that you're going to take Yates in the next one as well? I don't know, it depends what map he chooses. I mean, yeah, it really depends. I think on this build, the map is maybe 50 to 70% of how you play. There's no like one single build that you can use, so I don't know. I still think it's a coin toss.
Okay, well we'll let you go to hop into the next game, and we'll bring Yates in here.
Righty.
So Yates, one game down. Losing on your first map of choice. How did you feel that went?
Not bad. That was kind of my warm-up game. So I like him going turrets really screwed me over, and I should have probably been a little bit more defensive with the metal I did have. I was just kind of taking more metal than I could actually defend, and rightfully so. He punished me for it. So I think next time I'll be a little bit more careful.
Well, I have to say that up until about halfway, it was looking pretty even, both in terms of production and in terms of Yeah, it was looking relatively even between the two of you. Do you think there was a particular turning point there, or was it just a case of you think you spread out too far?
Yeah, I think I was spread out too thin. He had better defended metal than I was, so I just wasn't trading effectively against his turrets, and that eventually kind of hurt me. And then he also had like air superiority for a little bit. Did a lot of damage during that window before I could get it back. And yeah, he got that middle metal that had a bunch of metal, and he just put a bunch of turrets and stuff there, so I couldn't really punish it anymore, and have a slow death after that.
Surprised to see a couple of points in this game actually, where you had both fighters and docs rally to various points where Eladir was just able to pick them off, either as they streamed by or because you put them out of range of your defence. Is that just part of the need to warm up?
Yeah, it's definitely my. Also, I don't know. There's like this weird bug where every time I right click, I like move command something, then it resets my rally point to wherever I move commanded my units.
You see,
That was happening a lot in the game. That was kind of annoying.
we need to bring back the first excuse vote that we used to have, because both you and Eladir have been in here talking about exactly how the interface failed you and your master plan in this game. We clearly need to bring that back. It was your right clicking and it was his factories. We'll see you in game 2 then, Yags, and I look forward to seeing what map you've chosen there.
Alright, thank you.
Alright, let's just grab in Klops and Tees briefly. Hello Klops, hello Matisse.
Hey, how are you?
Hello.
I don't know, Matisse, if you managed to catch that game. I know you've joined us a little later. Did you see much? Did you see much of that?
Yeah, I did. I indeed came a little bit late, so I just caught the end of the game, so I don't really know too much about the game.
Okay, well, Klops, you were in that one from the beginning. How did that look to you?
Yeah, I just looked that air was quite strong, and as Yags rightly said, when Elodia had the air advantage, he really took advantage of it. So he was able, because you're able to be more aggressive with your docks, so you can attack. Obviously, Yags' expansions, while you know you have the air advantage, so you can bomb any of his raiding forces. So it really puts you on the back foot when you lose the air advantage in this kind of map.
So you think it just came down to that? Was it really just a big egg? Anything?
Yeah, I think, and when there was a time, there was a window too when Yags had their advantage, but you see he didn't go bombers. So if you mixed a couple of bombers in, he was quite passive with his docks. He was very defensive with them, I thought. So when you have air advantage, you build a couple of bombers, and then you can defend with that, and then you can raid with the docks.
Well, we're seeing for the next match. We've got a 50-50 split between almost 50-55 for Eladir, 4 for Yags. Oh, starting to go in Eladir's favour now. Do you think that Eladir is just gonna take the next one?
I was actually quite surprised that Yags there. He had some really good moves, but as you said yourself, it's a bit of rustiness, but there's some bad decision making from both players, I think, as well. So I don't know. It's gonna be. I think it's tighter than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, I think considering how much Yags was bigging up the idea that he was rusty, I didn't think that looked too bad from him there. Perhaps a little more floating from him than I would expect to normally see, but perhaps just feeling out the opening build. Okay, but thank you for your time there. We're going to hop straight into game 2.